Okay, so how to break through limiting beliefs so that you can move forward into your extraordinary life. First things first, we talked about who has already attended a webinar before. We talked about how it works, the orientation time. I don't know if anybody has any questions about that. Um, so yeah, I think that we should be okay. So I want to talk about how I achieved my results using the process that I'm about to teach you about today. Um, did you know that during our lifetime, you're only given what you can handle? So, believe it or not, before you were even born, your spirit went shopping for experiences that would make you even more well suited to be who you needed to be. So, my own personal story is I grew up in an emotionally abusive household where nothing was ever right. I had a lot of white glove inspections and things like that. So nothing I ever did was okay. And there was a whole lot of nasty, nasty talk. And of course, this followed me throughout my entire life. If I ever did anything, it would need to be perfect or there was no reason for doing it, and sometimes that meant that I would end up doing things kind of half-assed. Um so yeah, there was definitely that perfectionist thing going on. um and this led me to feeling as if I was a failure all the time. So, using this method, I realized that these limiting beliefs are results of the stories that I began to tell myself out of love. So now my limiting beliefs, they actually work for me. And it's possible to make your limiting beliefs also work for you too. So, um, regardless of your background. So, we're going to talk about that a little bit more today. So, it is more than possible to achieve your dreams, even if you came from a rough start, like I did. I know a lot of us have, and a lot of us have been through a whole lot of turmoil in our past. And I'd love to let's take a look. I want to take a look at these impressive individuals here. Consider the case of these influential people. Bill Gates, his first business failed miserably when they took it out. When they took out his, he had he had a contraption that he put together, and when they took it out to demonstrate it, it didn't even work. So but at the same time, the existence of this thing that he created made his future work possible. Ben Franklin, his parents couldn't even afford to send him to school past the age of 10, so he pursued his education on his own. So I'm sure that he told himself all the time, I'm not smart enough, I don't know enough, all of that fun stuff. Bethany Hamilton, I don't know if anybody is familiar with Bethany Hamilton, but she had her arm bitten off by a shark when she was 13 years old. And then she was back on her surfboard a month later. And then she won first place in the Explorers Women's Division of the NSSA National Championship. So it's like, what? Talk about determination. I'm sure she's, thought about, like, I'm sure her mindset has been on, a roller coaster of sorts as well. So, wow. I mean, that blows my mind. So I want to tell you a little bit about my experience. I've worked with parents of students with deployed spouses for the past 14 years. And some of these people were, some of these parents were incredibly depressed. Some whose spouses had left entirely, like they just left their family behind. And as a teacher, I absolutely loved and grew passionate about reaching out to these parents during conferences, meetings, and follow-ups and things like that. And working with them, I observed the blocks that they had melting away as they overcame limiting beliefs of their own, using the same method that we're going to talk about today. And I was thrilled when I saw spouses getting jobs that they had always wanted. And yeah, they would even end up leaving their spouses if they had to leave their spouses if they were in an abusive situation. So it was really incredible to see the transformation that they went through, and they gained the strength that they needed. They went from being lonely to social. They ended up getting what they needed. More than anything, it was what they needed was to be heard and to have their inner gifts revealed to them so that they could live a life that was fueled by their passions. So I'm going to come by, and I just want to double check and see if anybody has. I don't want to poll anybody. This is my first time doing a webinar, so I want to make sure that nobody has any questions. And so, okay, I'm going to continue sharing my screen. There we go. Okay, so yeah, today I want to show you how easy it is to break through limiting beliefs so that you can realize your potential and begin to live your life out loud today. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to discover what is really possible for limiting your belief. What is really responsible for your limiting beliefs? We're going to acknowledge your story and your self-talk. We're going to honor that story, and we're going to turn it around. So why this method? Did you know that our brains are designed to keep us playing small? Brain structures, namely the amygdala, keep us safe and in our comfort zone. It's your brain that's actually working to help you, but it doesn't really work in today's world. You need tools in order to combat this. And yeah, I mean, if you know anything about the amygdala, it's what is responsible for that flight or flight response, and that doesn't necessarily work for us right now. I mean, it was useful whenever we needed to run away from saber-toothed tigers and such, but we don't need to do that so much anymore. So why this method? This method is going to allow you to provide a fertile ground to plant the seeds of possibility. So how we can grow our miraculous live out loud life. How can we grow our miraculous live out loud life if we have a bunch of weeds in the form of negativity sucking the life out of our soil? So that's something to think about. Finally, we have stories. Those stories hold emotional charge for us, and they're a source of strength for us too. The beliefs that we have are associated with those stories that are not always the healthiest. If you came from a childhood that was emotionally abusive, you likely gained the strength in knowing that you could make it through some serious stuff. What hurts us is all of the negative things that you have been told, and they stay with you. So I want to show you how to let these things go. We won't have time to really dive into this today, deeply into this today, but it is definitely something that I do work with with my one-on-one clients. So what I want you to do is I want you to answer this question. Are you really prepared to welcome in possibility and cast those old dirty beliefs aside? Some people really do like holding on to those beliefs. They believe that it's going to help them in some way, keep them sheltered, keep them safe, and so that's okay. But others are ready to let those things go. So here is today's agenda. We're going to discover what is really responsible for your limiting beliefs. We're going to start right here. So first, you're going to identify what is really possible for your limiting beliefs. When we're able to identify the root emotion behind our limiting beliefs, it moves us from an external frame of reference to an internal frame of reference. I'm going forward and backward. I apologize for that. To an internal frame of reference. And this means that rather than looking outside for things, events, and circumstances, outside yourself for answers to your questions, you're going to start to look within you. My vision for you today is that once you realize which emotion is doing the talking, releasing the limiting beliefs will actually become that much easier. So we're going to jump right into this. What if, what if, what if I told you that there are only two root emotions that are responsible for your beliefs, and one is responsible for negative ones? So the first one is love. Love is not limiting. Love is expanding. It is what drives us. It is pleasure and it's passion. It's what makes us feel that amazing tickle in our hearts whenever, for me, it's dancing. I love dancing and I love running. Whenever I am doing these things, I am I can sense a tickle in my heart that makes me feel like, oh wow, this is the stuff. So that is love. So in the chat box, I'm going to unshare this for a second. In the chat box, I would love for you to give me one word to describe how you experience love. What is that sensation like for you? Love. And if you're not sure how to chat, just click on the little chat bubble there on the bottom. And over on the right-hand side, you're going to enter you can put in your answer. How do you feel love? Do you feel it in your heart? Do you feel it in your fingers? Sometimes our fingertips can even be a little bit tingly. How do you feel love? How do you sense it? It makes you feel warm inside, Margaret. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. Warm, fuzzy blanket. Hmm. It's wonderful. Great. Anybody else? Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna go back. Heart and warmth, and sometimes tears. Beautiful. Warm sensation all over the body. Yeah, yeah. Wonderful. So it's more of an expanding feel sensation, not so much of a contraction. We'll talk about that contraction, but it's the expansion. It makes you feel big. Butterflies. Ah, yes. I'm getting chills right now, and doing this webinar right now. I'm feeling love, and this is wonderful. Great. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen now so we can get on with this. I see somebody else has yeah, okay. There we go. So we're going to move on next to fear. Fear, on the other hand, fear is limiting. Fear is constricting. This is worry, it's anxiousness, and it's anger. So I want you to take a minute and pick one of those emotions, and I want you to feel that in your body. Tell me, how does that feel? This is another one. We can share this in the chat box as well. How does that make you feel? I know that whenever I sense fear, I sense it in my heart. You might sense it. The palpitations, in your heart. You might sense constriction of breathing. You might not be able to breathe as deeply as you once were. Learn that I just got your message. That is in the center of my body. Beautiful, beautiful. So yeah, fear. What does that show up as inside your body? Heart, gut, and overwhelming. Thank you, Ariana. Yeah, sometimes it can feel like a punch in the gut, right? Yeah. Even now, just talking about it, I keep gasping for air. Yeah. Fear shows up in my shoulders and neck a lot of the time. Thank you, Barbara. Yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit scary. The center of my body. Okay. Closure, non communication. Great. Thank you. Okay. like a horrible stomach ache. Yeah, yeah. It's some pretty funky stuff. Okay. So, uh, so now we're using the chat box, and we're getting used to using it to using it now. So we're going to dive a little bit more into these limiting beliefs and into fear. So I want to talk really quickly about something that I know a lot of people who are starting to step into exercising for the first time after a long time. I know that that some people, once they start to exercise, they might feel their heart beating fast, and then they feel like they might die, and that's fear. That's scary, you know. Um, and so, something I want you to consider is, you know, what is really happening there, you know. Um, and what's happening is that fear is taking over in the form of limiting beliefs. So I have a fear that I might die. That is going to be that 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 fear is what's underneath the limiting belief there. Is it love? No, it's fear. So I fear that I might die. So some people would love to do art. Let's say they say I love art, but my inner voice says that I suck. So what is really happening here? So what you want to do is you want to consider that this is actually fear that is behind the inner voice that's saying, you know, you suck. So instead, what that fear is really saying is, I fear that if I expose myself, I'm going to be made fun of. Is this making sense? So you can, is this making sense? Yes, no? Okay. So basically, fear is underneath all of those limiting beliefs. And so if you know that fear is underneath those beliefs, then you're going to be able to go so much further. Yeah. Okay. Great. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. Moving back into, okay. So next we're going to explore the importance of your story and your self-talk. Why? This is where you're going to notice the pattern. So, oh goodness, you know, I tell myself all the time, if you know this, you will be able to if you know this, you're going to be able to tell your mind to stop it. So if you tell yourself all the time, you know, I I can't draw. I can't draw. I can't draw. I can't draw. Um, so, but if I want to be an artist, that's not necessarily going to serve me. So I'm going to have to actually tell my mind to knock it off. So yeah, and it can be every single time I pick up a pen, my mind goes straight to, you can't draw. This is going to be when I exercise a little bit of mindfulness and say, hey, you know what? You keep telling yourself that you can't draw. That's not very nice. Um, and then you're going to have to tell your mind to stop it. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this. Our stories are designed to actually keep us safe. So remember I talked about the amygdala. Our amygdala is the bodyguard. It's not very smart. It just does what it's told. If you tell it to look for a tall man in green pants, it's going to find a tall man with green pants, and it's going to attempt to either beat him up or it's going to, or get you to run away from him. Most people have a fear of public speaking, public speaking. Everyone is going to think, you know, like I know that if I stand up in front of other people, I'm thinking everybody is going to think I'm stupid. What am I going to say? What if I freeze? Nobody wants to hear what I have to say. So these are stories that are associated with a time in our youth when we're asked to get in front of a room and talk only to be ridiculed and laughed at. And basically it was really scary, right? So I know for a lot of people, me too, you know, it put my amygdala on high alert. And in the process, the formation of another inner being started. And that inner being is your inner bully. So I don't know if I have a really cool, yeah. Okay. So it's time to break out of that pattern of negative thinking. So the amygdala may not have a voice. Your inner bully, however, decided to take its job. So if you notice, the inner bully may sound a whole lot like all of the other voices from your past that hurt you, you know? So I know my inner bully is the voice of my stepdad a lot of times, or my stepsisters, or all of those kids that were mean to me in school. Um, Basically it's repeating all of the things that they have ever said to hurt me. So my amygdala, that part of my brain, it wants to keep me safe. Really, it's doing its job. And it's going to call on my inner bully. They basically work together an awful lot in order to keep you from making the same mistakes over and over again. So really, what's happening here? The inner bully is trying to protect you from ridicule and from all of those things that happen outside of you, that have happened outside of you before in the past, because that was not a pleasurable experience. So we're going to try to avoid that painful experiences at any cost. So that inner bully has a tendency to repeat the same things over and over and over, depending on the situation. And this is the pattern. It's time to break out of that negative thinking pattern. So what we need to do is we need to name the inner bully and recognize that it is fear. So I know that my inner bully, she's a perfectionist, of course. Um, so I named her Perfectionist Patty. Not that I have anything against Patties. I actually love Patty. And you'll see, you've got to love your inner bully. So I love Patty. And so I named her Patty. You might want to, I want you to consider your inner bully and what that inner bully's name might be. And also I want you to consider the fear that the inner bully is trying to keep you away from, or trying to keep you away from. I'm seeing something in the chat. Yeah, perfectionist. I see Bonnie said perfectionist. Anybody else have another kind of bully? Sometimes the bully can say, you're never enough. Like if you're a high achiever, you might get to the top of your mountain, and then you look around and instead of enjoying the fact that you got to the top of your mountain, it's never enough. You've got to go to another, climb another mountain. It's, so sorry. Okay. So what needs to happen is notice that when a pattern kicks, there we go. I'm frozen a little bit. Okay. So what needs to happen is this. So notice when that pattern kicks in. I'm a little bit of a computer geek and I enjoy using if-then statements. So it's part of programming. So not that I'm any good at it, but so for the sake of pointing out that our brains are like computers, which they can be, let's use the if-then statements in order to talk about patterns. So for example, if it's Valentine's Day and I don't have a boyfriend or girlfriend, then I'm unlovable and lame. So yeah, this is often that lovely day, that Valentine's Day, what a lot of people end up telling themselves. That's that negative, that inner bully voice telling them that they are unlovable and lame. What about this though? I am afraid of being alone. Just call it what it is. What is the fear there? So this goes back to earlier issues with wanting to be wanted. So again, I go into this a little bit more with my one-on-one clients as we explore where the stories started and how we can use them to make us more powerful in what we want to do, but it's really too much to go into right now. So I want to consider this. Would you say the same thing to somebody else? Would you tell somebody else that they're lame or unlovable? So no, I mean, that's mean. Why would you say that to yourself? So sometimes our inner bullies show up saying, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not worthy, you don't have enough education, your health is terrible, how can you do that? You don't have what I need. Who do you think you are? And I want to ask you, are you going to allow your mean girl or your inner mean boy, your inner bully, call the shots for your entire life? I can't imagine being held captive to my own perfectionist Patty. Even pulling this webinar together, it was really a challenge for Patty to let go of the reins and allow Tony to simply do what she needed to do. And chances are I'm probably going to step away from this webinar, and I'm going to be a little bit terrified of what I just did. And it's not perfect, but sometimes we just got to get things out. And of course, that's my inner mean girl, and she's coming through. I can't allow her to hold me captive, though. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to honor her. So my inner mean girl is just the same as my inner child. What? So yeah, this is something that absolutely blew my mind. I just woke up one day and went, oh my goodness, my inner mean girl is just the same as my inner child. Truthfully, all of her negativity is coming from a place of fear. If she tells me, oh no, you're never going to be able to get that job, what she's really telling me is, oh my God, if you get that job, then where are we going to live? What is going to happen to me? Everything that we know, our comfort, everything is going to be gone. This is terrifying. This was once a real, honest fear of mine. At this point, the limbic brain is on fire, and honestly, no decisions could be made from this place. So yeah, we just talked about how our inner bullies and our inner child is telling us what they fear. So if you're comfortable sharing, what is your inner bully telling you? What is he or she afraid of? What does he or she need? This is something I would love for you to share in the chat box. What is your inner bully telling you? So for example, my inner bully just today was saying, you're never going to be able to pull this off. You're a little bit crazy. This is too hard. Oh, Jamie. Hello, Jamie. Yes. My inner bully was just saying this is too hard too, just to do this webinar. Thank you. Yeah. What I'm looking for is simply not meant to be. Oh, yeah. Nada, thank you. I haven't accomplished in life what I should have. Okay, so what is the fear behind that? If I haven't accomplished in life what I should have, what is the fear behind that? So for Jamie, my inner bully says this is too hard. What is the fear behind this is too hard? Barbara said I'm not qualified, that I don't have enough official education. Ooh, what is the fear there? Ariana, fear of stepping out stay hidden, not good enough. So if you have fear of stepping out, there's something that's going to be beneath that. Do you have a fear of, so for Ariana, a fear of stepping out, stay hidden, not good enough, is the fear of being seen. Do you have a fear of being seen? You're not good enough, so why try? What is the fear? What is the fear, Robin? Yeah. So Ariana, being seen, you have a fear of being seen and heard, and that definitely is something that comes from somewhere in the past, somewhere, some sort of trauma that kept you from being seen and heard. Yeah, Dad. Bonnie, that I'm not successful. So Bonnie, is that your fear that you're not going to be successful? Or it can also be a fear of success. Sometimes when we have a fear of success, that has to do with responsibility, you know? And if I am successful, I know I personally have a little bit of a fear of success. And if I am successful, that means I'm going to have to show up. And if I show up, again, this goes right back to that perfectionist piece of me. If I, if I, if I show up, if I take responsibility, it might not be perfect. So why should I even try? Simply not willing to work hard enough to get, not Lornetta, or that I'm simply not willing to work hard enough to get there. Uh, yeah, yes, Lornetta, or I'm not simply, or that I'm simply not willing to work hard enough to get there. There's a fear of, there's definitely a fear there. So we are going to, I grew up in an era where belief that children should be seen and not heard. Oh my goodness, who else heard that? I know I heard that all the time. Children are to be seen and not heard. Ugh. Yeah, yeah. It's definitely a nasty, nasty, painful thing. Okay, so we are going to be moving on. Thanks for the chat box fun, you guys. That was fun. Oh, here we go. Sorry. I don't want to skip anybody. Fear of not knowing what action steps I need to take to become more successful. Ooh, beautiful. Nice. Thank you guys. Wonderful. So we're moving on to honoring the story. Now, oh, see, I just look at that. She's just so cute. So, honoring the story. Why do we want to do this? It provides validation and acceptance for the voice of the inner child who is now taking the place of the inner bully. So again, we're going to be moving from the inner bully. We're not going to be focusing on those negative voices, those mean voices that are inside our head telling us that we can't do things. Instead, consider that this could be your inner child that is giving you messages. So it provides validation and acceptance for the voice of the inner child who is now taking the place of the inner bully. At this point, your inner child, she wants a job. Your inner bully wants a job. That inner bully has been working really, really hard ever since you were a kid, okay? So replace her. Say, okay, you're no longer my bully. You are now my inner child. And my inner child wants a job. She's been doing a heavy duty job for quite some time. Her concerns and her mean messages and fears were once real needs that were not met. And they were even pinpoints of trauma. So we can't just tell stories that come along with her voice to go away. They just won't go away. It's not possible to just have them go away. And instead, we're going to work with them. I know I love to practice. I love the practice of Aikido, and that's working with and flowing with instead of fighting against. Fighting against doesn't help anything. Working with does. So, so validating equals acceptance. Acceptance equals honor. Honor equals strength. confidence, and power. With strength, confidence, and power comes healing. So, for those of you who know about the inner child and dealing with the inner child, you want to comfort her or him, and you want to allow her to save her voice. We're going to do a writing activity now. So, I want you to take out a piece of paper. And on that piece of paper, I want for you to write one thing that she or he, your inner child, has to say to you. And then, yeah, I'm just going to keep it simple. So on your piece of paper, I want you to write out one thing that your inner child has to say to you. It can be anything. It can be, hey, and it can have something to, it would be best if it had something to do with one of those nasty inner voices that you hear that are knocking you down all the time. But yeah, I want you to write down one thing that your inner child has to say. For example, I'm thinking about mine right now. My inner child is saying, why are you doing this to me right now? Why are you having me do this webinar? It makes me feel weird. Okay, so next, right on the next page, I want you to allow yourself a minute to address that fear. So my fear here is that I am exposed in front of people doing this webinar. I don't like being exposed in front of people doing a webinar. So, but sometimes we've got to run towards our fears. So I'm going to allow myself a minute to just address that fear that my inner child has. Let's see. So what am I going to tell her? I know this is uncomfortable. You're doing great. And I appreciate you. I'm very thankful for you hanging in there. And at the end of this, we're going to celebrate. So again, you're handling this like you're working with a child. So this means that you may need to apologize. You may need to make promises that may feel uncomfortable, but it'll make your inner child beam with excitement. Remember that your inner child truly wants the best for you. So when my inner child is saying, please, no, I don't want to do the webinar, she's trying to keep me safe. But she's telling me, no, you don't have anything important to say. She's just trying to do the best for me. So, what if you're getting that he or she wants to eat a whole lot of cake? Then you want to dig deeper. Why does she want that whole lot of cake? What is the emotional quality that she is really, really looking for? So if I'm dealing with a doozy, yeah, see, there we go. Oh, look at these slides. We're a little bit backwards. So what does your inner child or inner bully have to say to you? And I want you to address the fear that he or she has. Oh. So if I'm really dealing with a doozy, then a lot of times what ends up working out for me is running or going outside and exercising, dancing, doing yoga, working out. The mind-body connection really is a thing. It's really a thing, and it works wonders. It's the reason that I am no longer on medication. I was on a good helping of medication in the past, and I no longer am. I don't need it anymore. So when we get our bodies in motion and we're able to feel our bodies as they are experiencing this life, they provide us with all of the information that we really truly need in order to get through. Honestly, anything that I might ask her, Patty, my inner child, my inner bully, I might ask her, Patty, what is it that you want me to do? And she'll tell me, Tony, I'm afraid that if we move, I'm going to end up with nothing. We will have nothing. We're going to starve. If I turn to my body and I ask, this is a little trick, turn to your body and ask, where does it hurt when I say, I'm afraid that I'm going to end up with nothing. So whatever the fear is that you have, that your inner child or your inner bully is bringing up for you, let's say it's inner child now, I want you to turn to your body and I want you to ask your body about that now. Where does it hurt when I say, or where do I feel that when I say, I'm afraid that, I'm afraid that we're going to end up with nothing. So sense that inside your body. Now, here's a little note about this. Usually what a body craves is an emotional quality. We're emotional beings. And so if my body is craving, say, wine, and a lot of times it does, usually what I'm really craving is to be taken out of that. Basically, I want numbness. So, and I might want to feel a little bit comforted. So, and let's face it, wine's a little bit comforting. So I'm craving comfort. Can I get that same sensation by maybe making myself a cup of tea and like wrapping myself in a blanket? Possibly. So this is something to consider as you're working with that inner child. So if I ask my body why I feel the need to be numb or the need to be comforted, then that's going to help me address those mental blocks for sure. So again, my one-on-one clients get the opportunity to really dive into what the voices of their body are telling them about achieving their goals at a much deeper level as well. So totally lost my place. Okay, so next, finally, we're going on to the turnaround. Oh, you know what? Before we do that, I really want for us to talk about in the chat box, come over to the chat box. And I would love for you to write in any ahas that you had just from that piece right there. What are some of the voices that your inner child is telling you? And how can you address the fear that he or she has? Ariana, I got to where it is in the body, but she's scared to go deeper and find out the rest. Yeah. And sometimes this can take a little bit of time. Working deeper is sometimes really, really what is needed. Thank you, Ariana, for sharing. So Ariana, is that something that you knew before? Or is it something that just came up today for you? Okay. Yeah. The body is really incredibly telling. It really does have a voice of its own. Oh, I have chills. Thank you so much for sharing, Ariana. I appreciate that. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Oh, Robin, I love the idea of asking the body where and why it feels the way it does. It's so important. I feel like the body is its own, it heals itself, and it will tell you everything that you need to know about what needs to heal emotionally. So, yeah, and again, this is something that I work with my one-on-one clients all the time. So, okay, so we are going to move on. So we're going to talk about turning around those negative stories that we've been living with. When we take our stories and our old beliefs and turn them around, they actually become empowering. So, and for some of you that are discovering that, once you get deeper into your body, yeah, this work can become really incredibly transforming. So, yeah, here we go. So, this is fertile ground for your new future, and it will be built on from here on out. So, here is the strategy. We're going to do it a turnaround. This is something that is actually Byron Katie's work. She is absolutely incredible. I don't know if anybody else knows of Byron Katie. You can always say, yeah, I do. She is amazing. And so what you're going to do is you identify your story, whatever that story is that you keep telling yourself over and over and over, whatever the limiting belief is, you're going to identify it. I cannot talk in front of people, or I am afraid that if I move on to this next job, I'm going to end up homeless and destitute. So what you're going to do next is you're going to ask yourself, is this true? Is it true that I am absolutely horrible at webinars? You know, so far nobody has told me that I'm really terrible at this. Thank goodness. So there is no proof yet. Okay, I'm gonna just say that there's no proof. So now I'm gonna turn it around. What is the opposite of this story statement? So for me, again, my story was, I'm absolutely terrible at webinars and I cannot talk in front of people. What's the opposite of the story statement? I'm confident when I speak with others. I can stand in my power when I speak with others. Is there proof of that? Well, when I just said that, just that second that I said that, I realized I felt actually pretty strong. I felt, and it's really interesting. Like I even noticed that my feet got grounded, and they both kind of like placed themselves on the ground in a way that that was really grounding. So that was really interesting. Oh, Robin, thank you. That is the sweetest. So Robin, you just gave me proof. Thank you. You're the sweetest. So yeah, so there is proof. There's definitely proof. So yeah, consider one of those negative beliefs that you've got, shift it around to the opposite and think, okay, what is the proof? I can accomplish anything I put my mind to. Is there proof, Bonnie? I know that you've got proof. And in fact, not only do you have like one example of proof, but you have multiple examples of proof. You might even have 3 or 4 examples of how that's true. I can accomplish anything I put my mind to. Yeah. Oh, Robin, thank you. You guys are the best. You're going to make me cry. That's the sweetest. So yeah, you can accomplish anything you put your mind to. Just, yeah, this is fun stuff. I really love doing this turnaround technique. It's really super duper useful. That was my turn. So I can accomplish. Do you have any proof, Bonnie? What's your proof that you can accomplish anything that you put your mind to? Just one example of proof. I love doing this. And if anybody else would also like to share their turnaround statement, as well as an example of how that's true. Madeline, hi Madeline. Oh, it's okay, there's going to be a replay. Oh, don't worry about it. It's okay. It's okay, Madeline. I'm glad you got to make it. Right now, we're talking about turnaround statements, and I'm thinking about proof for turnaround statements. Night, Madeline. So, Bonnie, you can accomplish anything you put your mind to. I am perfect in God's eyes. Wonderful, Robin. So I know that you have got proof of that as well. I mean, and sometimes this can be as simple as, if you're having a hard time coming up with ways that you can prove that your turnaround statement is true, think of things that you're grateful for. You know, if you're concerned that you're not perfect. Okay. So if you're concerned that you're not perfect, Ariana, what is your or do you have a turnaround? Let me look up. No, I'm frozen. Okay. What is your can you tell me one of your limiting beliefs? I'm not good enough. Okay. So I am not good enough. What is the opposite? What would be the opposite statement of I'm not good enough? Or I won't amount to anything? What's the opposite of that? I am good enough. Okay, now, Ariana, is it true that you're not good enough? Okay, so now you just said, I am good enough. I want you to tell me, I want you to think of one example of proof that you are good enough. Bonnie, amazing. I was able to graduate from college later in life. And oh my gosh, that is amazing. I love that. Ariana, I am not good enough. Or I am good enough. I want you to tell me one example of proof I am good enough. It can even be, I graduated from school. You did. Number one, you graduated from school. Number two, Ariana, you made it to this webinar today. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I have chills right now on my skin because you are here with us today on this webinar. I mean, that is a blessing. So, I mean, not only are you good enough, but you're making an impact. Okay? It's incredible. Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm so glad you're here today. Yes, I took action steps by attending this webinar. You all did. You all did. This is great. I'm so thankful that you all came today. Yes. Yes. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on. So again, here are some examples. We're going to end up homeless and destitute if we end up, changing jobs. Is it true? No, not yet. So the turnaround would be, we're going to have a roof over our head and we're going to be just fine. The proof is I have a roof over my head right now. I still have a job. I have some money in the bank. So Am I going to end up homeless and destitute? No, no, it's not true. So I'm able to finally just breathe. And remember, we just talked about love versus fear. And I'm going to choose love. Now, that's a whole other thing. Again, this is something I work with my one-on-one clients on. And if I choose love, I can sense what love feels like in my body. We talked about that as well. I can sense what the love feels like in my body. And I can choose, instead of feeling that fear that comes along with, oh my gosh, I'm going to end up homeless and destitute, I can choose love and change my mind, choose to change my mindset to that proof that I've got a roof over my head right now. I still have a job. I have some money in the bank. This is a lot more present as well. So we tried that out. So again, today's agenda, we went through everything. We discovered what was really impossible for your limiting beliefs, explore the importance of your story and your self-talk, honor the story, turned it around. So here's the recap. We talked about the 2 root emotions that are responsible for all emotions, love and fear. We moved from external frame of reference to the internal frame of reference. We talked about the importance of paying attention to the story and noticing patterns so that you can break them. We went over a strategy for working with your inner bully, also known as your inner child, which is something that I would really like us to consider from here on out. This is my inner child, not necessarily my inner bully. You can name her if you want to name that person within you, that little person. Honor the story and validate it. Validity equals acceptance, acceptance equals honor, honor equals strength, confidence, and power. Don't we all want this? We touched on a strategy for using your body to help guide you in determining your needs. We did an exercise writing to our inner bully, our inner child, that revealed the root fear with ahas. We went over a useful strategy for turning stories around to make them empowering. And so now I've got a question for you. Was our time today enjoyable? And before we do that, you know something I want to do? I would love to do some Q&A. If anybody has questions, I would love for you to feel free to ask them in the chat box. Bonnie, wonderful. I'm so glad this webinar was helpful. Super glad that this helped you out. Sometimes I don't find my evidence all that. So your proof for your turnaround. Yeah. Hmm. Can you give me an example, Barbara? Oh, Ariana, that is wonderful to hear. I know my own chest is like, breathing for you, girl. Yeah, and sometimes when we don't find our evidence all that convincing, we might need to dig deeper for even more evidence. You know, and sometimes it's necessary to come up with 15 different different ways that you see this working for you. I'm so glad this worked out. This is helpful. What is one quick way to calm yourself the moment you think you're going to fly off the handle? Madeline, thank you so much for the question. Okay, one quick way to calm yourself the moment that you think you're going to fly off the handle. This is what I do. Okay, first thing you want to do is see not safe. I mean, as long as you're not in an airplane or a motorcycle that's just running and you can't stop it, what you want to do is you want to place both feet on the ground, both feet on the ground. Okay. Um, and if you can, if it's possible, get down on the ground and sit on the ground and sit straight up. And if not, you can stand, that's fine. But what you want to do is you want to, and I do a little visualization for this. So, what you want to do is you want to get yourself really quiet in your mind. And I want you to consider that you have got roots coming down through your feet. Okay, so you are going to go all the way down, ground all the way down. Imagine that those roots are going all the way to the center of the earth. Okay. As well, and if you're sitting on the ground, you're going to be doing that with your tailbone. You're going to reach down into the center of the earth with your tailbone. Imagine that it's got roots going all the way down there. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to breathe as deep as you possibly can, all the way into the center of the planet. Okay. So again, you're going to breathe deep, really deep in. And then out really slowly. Okay. That is one thing that you can do. Another thing you can do is you can breathe in, you can box breathe. And that means you're going to be breathing in for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, in for 4 seconds, and out for 4 seconds. This is like an anxiety response. Again, this is fear, anger. When you want to haul off and slap somebody, basically it all comes down to fear, and fear is that amygdala kind of firing off and freaking out. So you want to get the amygdala to calm down. And whenever we breathe slowly, that is telling your amygdala, hey man, I'm safe. I'm going to be all right. There's nothing running after me. There's no saber-toothed tiger. Everything is fine. So doing those breathing exercises really, really should help. So Madeline, I really hope that that answers your question. Let me know if it does. I'm breathing right now. That's really nice. Are there any other, does anybody have any other questions? Okay. Alrighty. So, yeah, gives your mind something to do for sure. Okay. So, oh, boop. All right. So, was our time today enjoyable for you? I just want to know. Yeah, and you can answer in the chat box, or you can just answer in your own mind. Was our time today enjoyable to you? Have you also found it to be valuable? Do you now have strategies to use the next time your mind begins to nag at you? Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Oh, Ariana, wonderful. So good to hear that. Great, great, great. Are you able to turn around your story so that it is something that will work for you rather than against you? Wonderful. Great. Wonderful. Is it fair to say that using these techniques will allow you to move forward toward living a more out loud life? Oh, wonderful, Barbara. Great. Thank you. Great, Ariana. Wonderful. So wonderful. So I'm going to, all righty, we're moving up. Okay. So you see, once you're able to break through your limiting beliefs, life becomes a lot more abundant, and you're going to begin programming your mind and your energy to create experiences that will fuel you with the drive that you need to achieve whatever you set your attention on. Once you break through your fears, you're going to notice that you're going to feel a lot more positive and joyful in everyday life. Negativity won't keep its hold on you like it had in the past. You're going to invite more exciting experiences that will truly make you feel like you're living the out loud life that you want. So, this is something that I go really deeply into with my one on one coaching program. Once we discover what drives you and motivates you, we co-create a plan that includes working with the Living Out Loud blueprint support and guidance plan. And this means that your plan is going to include mindfulness practices, mindset strategies, creativity, inspiration, and managing the mind in order to fuel productivity. You also end up You'll also get body practices, including a consultation on physical activity and movements that inspire healing, Ayurvedic practices, food as medicine, and other energy healing modalities. Um, you'll get emotional support through meditation and communication, and and you get additional contact that helps you know that somebody is there to see you through your trials and your triumphs as well. Sometimes we just need a cheerleader. You also get spirit support through intuitive development, discovering your spiritual practices that will actually lead you to success. They will lead you to and will lead you to uncover what is already within you that is just itching to come out. So if there's something about what we did today or something that about what I just talked about that really speaks to you and you'd like to go into it deeper, I'd love to schedule a discovery call. And during the call, we're going to discuss where you are and where you'd like to go. We'll create a plan to get there. And we're going to decide what your next steps are. And for some of you, the next steps will be working together privately. And for some, I'll give you some next steps that you can use on your own. Either way, you're going to walk away from this call with a more clear vision of what exactly you need to do to live your life out loud. So I'm going to post the link for the scheduler so you can schedule your discovery call in the chat box. And yeah, I really look forward to chatting with some of you. So so I want to thank you so much for joining me today for this webinar. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to email me, find me in the Facebook group. There will be a replay available. And yeah, and I want to thank all of you so much for coming and joining me today. And until I see you again, I know we're going to do more webinars here in the future. Keep living out loud. Thank you, guys. Thank you.